Hello all, hope you're doing well. So in this video we are going to discuss about the trivial common names of organic compounds. So I'll be trying you can say a lot trying you can say for certain compounds whatever we are able to cover in this video. So we know about methane pretty well, and this I might have told you before also. This is present in marshy place. That's why we even call this methane gas as marsh gas. Then we have a common name for this compound, acetic acid. Otherwise, we call it as ethanoic acid. So, oic acid is the suffix for carboxylic acid, which is a functional group that I'll be covering in the next video. So, acetic acid from the term acid term. Acetic acid is, you can say, a major component of vinegar. Then we have this acid, it's a carboxylic acid again, and this is what we call as formic acid. Formic acid, formica, it's actually released by red ants. It is called as methanoic acid. That's the IUPAC name. And if you get this kind of question, I've seen most of the time, like, what is wood spirit? So that is methyl alcohol. So that's a common name. Otherwise, we even call it as methanol. The functional groups, alcohols, and etc., we'll be discussing in the next video. So, this is called as wood spirit also, methyl alcohol, CH3OH. Now, this part I might have covered before also. So, if you're writing butane, it's a straight chain, there are no branches. So, this is called as N-butane. N stand for normal straight chain. Then we have something like one more thing, like I wanted to add, like if I'm going to write propane, we are just going to write propane even in the common terminology, because you can't have a branch over here. See, this butane, I can, like, having four carbon atoms, actually we can write an isomer of butane. If its isomers are basically organic compounds having same molecular formula but different structure. So basically, these four carbon atoms, I can put a branch in the middle. So these are four carbon atom, right? So this is not a straight chain. So we can't write N-butane over here. But when it comes to propane, you can't do anything. There is no possibility. There are three carbons, and that is the minimum chain that you can have. You can have two carbons, so we are not going to write N-ethane. Similarly, for propane, we are not going to write N-propane. So over here, you can write N is not used because it has only one structure. So we can't make multiple structures out of it. Then we go to another example, that is iso. So this is called as isobutane. So what's the meaning of iso? So this entire thing is something called as iso group. So when one methyl group is attached to the second carbon of the continuous chain, that is the meaning of iso. Then after that we have another prefix, that is neo. If you want to write the IUPAC name of this, you can actually write. So that we'll do in a minute. So this is what we call neopentane. So why do we say that? See, when it comes to common terminology, we don't use that long chain alkyl group and etc. So it's, you can say this entire thing, like this entire thing. So if I just split it up, CH2, like right like this entire thing is your neo group. So neo is when two methyl groups are attached to second carbon of the continuous chain. So this carbon I'm talking about. So we'll write it over here. When two methyl groups are attached to the second carbon atom of the continuous chain. So that is neopentane. Otherwise, if we want to write the IUPAC name for a change for this, so you have to take any one as a straight chain. Either you take like this or you go like this. So any way you go, it will be always 2 comma 2 dimethyl propane. Prop is 3 carbon in the main parent chain, 2 alkyl groups over here. Then we already know about this, I might have discussed in the previous video. This is called as ethylene. That's ethene, but commonly we call it as ethylene. And if we have a double bond with a 3 carbon, this is called as propylene. Similarly, if we want to make an isostructure, so this will be called as isobutylene. So why iso? Again, it's the same reason that you have methyl group on the second carbon. So this is iso position. Then we go to the triple bond. So triple bond having minimum 2 carbon atom, the very first homologue of alkyne series. So this is called as acetylene. Otherwise, it's ethyne. So if we have 3 carbon with the triple bond, so this will be called as methyl acetylene. Acetylene is a name given to this carbon-carbon triple bond. This is acetylene. So this methyl group is present. So we will call it as methyl acetylene. Then we go to the next. If we have to understand this, here, if you can see this. Now, this is our acetylene. So, but we have two methyl groups present on either side. So we will call it as dimethyl acetylene, right? So next we go to, let's say if we have propane. So out of propane, we can actually make this 3 carbon attached to the main parent chain in this format. So this is the parent chain. If this kind of, you can say substituent which is attached to the main parent chain, so we call this as N-propyl. Now the same, if the second carbon is attached to the main parent chain, then we call it as isopropyl, because the middle carbon is basically attached to the main parent chain. Something like, these all are acting as a substituent. So propane will give you propyl, right? And in both the cases, if you can see, propyl is there. So if this is propane, obviously alkane is going to form alkyl. So propane is changing into propyl. Similarly, if we have butane, and we can write N butane over here. So N butane can change into N butyl attached to the parent chain. Then it can even the second carbon of the butyl group. This can attach to the main parent chain. So this is something called as secondary butyl, right? So this we have to remember. Secondary means like the carbon over here is secondary, right? It's attached to, you can say, two carbon over here. So secondary butyl. Then if we have another example, if we take, if we have isobutane. So isobutane can directly, like, either this carbon can be attached to the main parent chain or this middle carbon. So it can change into, this is something called as isobutyl if it's the terminal carbon attaching to the main parent chain, or the middle carbon if it is attaching, we call it as tertiary butyl, or simply we call it as tert butyl. Let's try to do one question. I'm going to write names. You have to you have to figure it out whether they exist or not. Okay, so in this case, if you see isopropyl does exist. I written isopropyl anywhere? If you can see, yes, I have written. This is your isopropyl. So this can exist. Then if we talk about tert butyl I just wrote, this can also exist. Neobutyl, this is something which cannot exist. Neopentyl can exist. You need 5 carbon atom in order to exist in the neo form. So this is, you can say, answer which is wrong. So this, you can say, this is incorrect name. Rest all are correct. So neopentyl definitely exist. We do have neopentyl. Then, if we talk about other kinds of names, there is something called as acryl. Acryl is when you have one double bond and there is a continuous chain. So, not continuous, like minimum, not minimum, 3 carbon atom must be there. So, 3 carbon atoms with one double bond, if it's there, then we can use the term over here, acryl. Then if we have 4 carbon atoms with one double bond, so this is something called as croton. So we know that one carbon atom, if it's there, then we use the prefix as commonly form. 2 carbon if we have acid, 3 carbon if we have propion, 4 carbon if we have butyr. Butyric acid is also there, if you can relate. 5 carbon is velar. So these are the prefixes, specifically like if you have these many number of carbon atoms. Rest all we can figure it out, like I'm just going to introduce all this, but not more than this. But yes, we need to learn functional groups, then we can talk more about the common names. One point, I want to end this video with one last point. So we have di, tri, tetra, sec, that is secondary, and tert are not considered in alphabetical order, whether you talk about IUPAC name or you talk about common name, but ISO and NEO are considered. So whether you, obviously ISO and NEO will never come in IUPAC, it will only come in your this common names only. So alphabetical order is considered for ISO and NEO, but not for these. Whether you talk about like all these in IUPAC or common terminologies. Obviously, secondary and tert is common terminology. Di, tri, tetra can be there in IUPAC. So I want to end this video with this note. So I hope you understood and it was informative. Please like, subscribe, and share my videos. Thank you so much.